I just got back home with being with my mom, and we went to go see Jungle Cruise. Is it good? I'm going to spoilers ahead. It's hard to talk about movies without spoilers, so you're being warned. I'm Auckland. If you enjoy my content, please hit the subscribe button, like button also. Share with your friends if you don't mind. Also, please comment, ask me a question, or comment in general. I'll do my best to answer them. Also, if you don't mind, hit the notification bell down below, and you will be notified when I go live or upload another video. And if you want to become a fan of me, Auckland, then subscribe to the channel, and you will become a fan. I hope so. Jungle Cruise is the latest live-action Disney movie. Dwayne Johnson, The Rock, and Emily Blunt. Wow. Now, my mom made a comment afterwards. She said it reminded her of Indiana Jones meets Pirates of the Caribbean. Which, now that I think about it, it's perfect. It's perfect. That's an awesome way to put this movie. Jungle Cruise is literally you're going through the jungle on a cruise, on a broken down ship, on a river, hunting for a magical tree that gives off petals, flower petals, that will curse you and also put you to be immortal. And wow, this movie. So Emily Blunt is a fearless woman who is afraid. Well, her character Lily, Emily Blunt, is a character who's fearless, but she's afraid of water because she cannot swim. And The Rock and also Lily's brother, I can't remember what his name is. They get on this cruise after she steals this ancient arrow from this guy. And the main villain of the film is a German leader. And he wants the arrow, of course. So, and I forgot who the other guy was, but I recognized the actor. He was over Dwayne Johnson's character, which his name is Frank. Frank owed a lot of money for this cruise ship. Had an old motor on it, wouldn't halfway work, and he used con man acts. He took people on tours, and he did a lot of faking of stuff, ganging up a group of people, dressing them up like Indian type characters who supposedly kill humans and stuff like that. And he faked a lot of other stuff, like in the water and stuff, like a hippo or something like that, and to scare them. And he made a lot of corny jokes. It was so messed up. He talked about, as a joke, he talked about that he had a girlfriend once who was cross-eyed, and she couldn't look him straight in the eye, but he believed that she was seeing somebody on the side. Messed up. It was a bunch of corny jokes that Dwayne Johnson, The Rock, said throughout this film. Messed up. That was just one of them. It was really, really messed up, but it was funny though. If it was messed up. So Emily Blunt's Lily character, she's on the hunt and she's got this map, and of course she uses the map, and she gets a translation done through the group of people that were dressed up as the Indians. The Rock, Frank, does a lot of con stuff in this film, and he does it all to get money and stuff like that. That's all it's about. So, Lily and her brother, they all get trapped by the Indian type people, and they were acting like they were about to kill them, and they wanted the arrow back. it's a arrowhead. And the Dwayne Johnson, the Rock, Frank, calls Lily Pants because he's never seen a woman that wears pants before, so he's always calling her Pants. And he calls himself Skipper, and she made a joke about calling him Skippy, and it was just messed up. But after they got captured by the Indian people, who weren't actually Indian manhunters, so she got one of them to help her use the arrow to read it because it had some strange symbols on it, and she was able to learn how to read it, so she could use that with the map to learn where the location of this magical tree was. And the Frank had this pet tiger, and he once used that tiger to con his way through attacking people, even though the tiger wasn't going to attack anybody. He was just using it as con work. Um, so he done a lot of stuff so Lily couldn't really trust him anymore. But down the road, of course, she did trust him later on. And of course, as some of these stories normally go, the main characters fall in love, and of course, Lily falls in love with Frank. But later on, the German guy tries to get the arrowhead back, and also, of course, you've got a main villain. Now, the German guy, is one of the main villains, but the main one is this. See, the tree, as I talked about earlier, gives off these petals, and years and years ago, this curse happened. I can't remember exactly how it went, but these people had lived in the jungle, and I can't remember exactly what happened, but they all got cursed by, I think, by the tree or by the petals or something like that, and they were cursed to never be able to leave the jungle. They were all trapped, including Frank the Rock, and they were all immortal because there was some point in time in the film where he got stabbed by a sword, and that's when Lily learned about what he was, that he was immortal. He was 400 years old. And then there's this warrior guy who was trapped on the island also, and he was like the main villain, and he had bunch of other members, and since they've been on the island for 400 years and all that, a bunch of them were like made out of snakes and tree saps and honey and all that stuff. So they were like stuck on the island and trapped, and their body became those things. But let's see, I want to keep on going. I want to talk about the entire movie. So pretty much the warrior guy and his people that looked like the island and all the creatures wanted the arrowhead and all that stuff. So they had a bunch of fights between them and the Rock and Lily and all that. And then, of course, the German guy who's wanting to get one of the petals from the tree so he can be immortal, so he can reign and live for generations as a German leader. Let's see. Let's see. Does But let's get to the point here. But so towards the end of the movie, when they finally get to the tree, and they get the arrow, and they have to do something with the arrow. I think it had a heart inside of the arrow once they broke it apart, because there was a story about something about being broken apart and stuff like that. So they had to figure it all out with this puzzle. And they activated the tree, and the petals started showing up and started disappearing, and Lily being battled with the German people, and she was able to get one of the was able to get one of the petals before it disappeared. And Frank had been always talking about, he wanted to break the curse so he can rest. He wants to die. But she wanted him to live so she can be with him in her world and learn about motor cars and all that stuff. And Of course, in the end, pretty much like the Rock and all the warrior people were like turning into stones, and they were pretty much gone. But Lily had took the petal and stuck it into his mouth, and he became unfrozen. Talking about Frank the Rock Johnson, brought him back to life. He was no longer cursed, no longer immortal. He could bleed and feel pain because he used to not be able to do all that. And they pretty much fell in love with each other, of course, and he got to learn about motor cars, how to drive them, because he didn't know how to drive them. Of course, he still did his jokes, and they kind of rubbed off on Lily, because she made a joke about the exhaust pipe on the car, and it was funny. But at pretty much, what my mom had said, if you love Pirates of the Caribbean, how action packed and adventure that it was, and the jokes and stuff, and you love the mystery and the adventure and the puzzles and action, of course, of Indiana Jones, and you mash them all together with The Rock Johnston and Emily Blunt, then you have Jungle Cruise right there. Fantastic movie. Highly recommend going to go see this movie. It's so good. And it is, in a way, they could do a sequel, but really, do they really have to? Not necessarily. But boy, was it so good. So good. Highly recommend it. Alright, thank you so much. Alright, I hope you enjoyed this video. Alright.